Hey, World Entertainment, and this is the review for the Odyssey Take Two. Apparently, the first one, something happened and the audio stopped recording. It was fine at the beginning, and then it wasn't. So, that's all fixed now. Which is unfortunate because now the movie's not as fresh in my mind as it was when I recorded the first one. But the story, of course, is the Odyssey. So we're following Matt Damon as Odysseus and his travels and his son and his wife Penelope and all this type of stuff. And, you know, he comes across monsters and gods and all this type of stuff. At least that's what he's supposed to do, and that's what the story is meant to be. And this movie it takes a hell of a lot of liberties. And the big question, of course, is with the casting choices, with the controversy with the casting and stuff, does that affect the movie? Yes and no. The no part is the fact that they're barely in it. Like, I think Lupita Nyong'o screen time, I think, is 2 minutes. Probably under. No exaggeration, about 2 minutes, if not less. Same with Ellen Page, the Page. 2 minutes or under. Half the cast you forget are even in the bloody thing. They're literally non-entities. There's no reason for Travis Scott to be in it, and that's how the movie opens. The first person you hear and see in this movie is Travis Scott, followed immediately by Ellen Page, and you're like, really, Chris? This is how you want to open your movie? Okay, that's a bold choice. The biggest crime this movie has isn't even the casting, it's boring. It's just out and out boring. I thought I was there for over an hour and I was like, Jesus, this is dragging. And I checked, I was there for 35 minutes. And I'm not exaggerating. 35 minutes. I was only into the movie 35 minutes. Oh my God, this is dragging this much in a half hour. There's another 2 hours to go with this. Good God, it's bad. It really is. And when you start getting promotional material that just makes you cringe, you're like, what? This dropped the other day, and I swear to God, like, how boring the movie is gonna hurt it. The casting choices are gonna hurt it. But when promotion like this drops out, this is gonna hurt it more. Take a look at this before we continue.
Odysseus,
Telemachus, Penelope,
Antinous, Odysseus,
Athena,
Telemachus,
Calypso, Penelope,
Menelaus,
and Helen of Troy.
Odyssey,
After the Iliad,
hidden no horse,
won the war.
Yeah, I'm serious.
Odyssey,
Odyssey,
itching for Ithaca,
get past the Peloponnesian Peninsula.
Odyssey,
I'll save you the embarrassment of continuing because it just gets worse and worse and worse the more it goes on. It really does. So overall, the story is, and this is one of my biggest issues with it as well, for a Christopher Nolan movie, it is structured so badly. And it's quite shocking how badly structured the movie is. It's all over the place. It's very messy. So you should just be following the story of Odysseus from the time he left, where he went, you know, goes to Troy, stuff like this, goes here, then over here, then here, and is then trying to make his way home. And the story is told from completely different perspectives, from different people. But they're all telling you a story from a different point. So rather than telling you, well, when he landed at Troy, you go immediately to something that happened way after that. Then they go back to that. Then they go forward again. Then they go back again. Then they go back even further. And the structure of it is all over the place. It's a mess. Now, the performances and stuff like that. Look, we may as well jump right into the controversies being Ellen Page, Lupita Nyong'o, Travis Scott, Zendaya, all this crap. you really did just race swap these and put in trans characters and all this stuff for the controversy. There's no other reason for it, because their screen time is non-existent, which is also hilarious when you're watching them having their interviews. And of course, we had a look before at the Lupita Nyong'o's one where she got asked, hey, like, if you could sit down with Homer and watch this movie and you could say one thing to him, what would it be? And she gave that stupid response of like, hey, well, what do you think about the screen time the women got in this scene? Is how little you spent with them doing all this crap. And it's like, bitch, you're in the movie for under 2 minutes. Literally. It's like, what screen time? You're non-existent in this movie. And the funny thing is, when you meet her, you're introduced to her sitting beside John Barfanall, who, by the way, we got issues with the entire cast. This isn't just about the controversial casting, is the whole cast. Well, for the majority of the whole cast is like, woo. But he introduced her to Tom Holland, and he's saying, this is my wife, Helen of Troy. Surely you've heard of the face that launched 1,000 ships. And he's rubbing her face, and then he goes, well, now she won't launch 500, and turns her head around, and she's all scarred up on one side. And you're like, that was a choice. And then we meet her sister. Problem is, the way the movie is structured and the way the dialogue happens, it's not all that clear that that's her sister. That you mean? It just seems like you're going from Helen to Helen, back to Helen. It's good God. And her performance, I don't give a shit what people want to say. She's fucking horrendous in this. Like, her acting in this is god awful. As is Ellen Page. Oh boy. When the memes end up being spot on, you got an issue. Now, we've all seen the memes of little skinny anorexic Ellen or Elliot, whatever, the Page, in the big armor and trying to run, and like, Jesus Christ. That's exactly what she's like in the movie. Like, it's beyond parody when you see it. It's like, Chris, dude, come on. This 1000% is a pity casting. Now, the character she's playing is Sinon. And Sinon doesn't even appear in the Odyssey book. She's not a part of Homer's story. Yet they removed Achilles out of the story to put Sinon in, so that when they meet Sinon in the afterlife, basically, that story was meant to be that Odysseus meets Achilles, and Achilles tells him about how to get home, and, you know, what do you do to be able to leave this place and all this type of stuff. And they've switched it to being Sinon, so trans actor Ellen Page can sit there and give him basically a bollocking, why did you lie to me, and all this type of crap, only for Matt Damon's Odysseus to take his name later and then say that Sinon was the greatest warrior he's ever known. Yeah. That's a real thing. So, this child, and that's what she looks like, especially in the suit of armor, running down that hill. It's beyond parody. Anne Hathaway's on the screen. She annoyed the ever-living piss out of me in this movie. Talk about overacting. My good God. She must have been told, hey, Christopher Nolan's doing the Odyssey, and he wants you to play Queen Penelope. That bitch went, Oscar time, here I come. Her overacting, and I mean she is overacting something terrible in this movie, is beyond a joke and beyond annoying. It's just ridiculous. And like she does all these super exaggerated facial expressions and stuff, and it's like this right here, it's just them just having a conversation about him leaving. Even before this gets to that point of him saying, like, I can't promise I'll come back. Like, her over-exaggeration with facial expressions and stuff, just in small conversations, was ridiculous. So, the movie, by the way, is basically Matt Damon and Tom Holland filled with cameos. That's the way you could look at this movie. Half the cast you forget are even in this thing until they pop up. I completely forgot Charlize Theron was in this as Calypso until she pops up in the movie. Probably over an hour into the movie. But Mia Goth is in this thing. Completely forgot she's in it. She plays Penelope's handmaiden, basically. And she's in it for about 5 seconds. The girl, or the woman I should say, I can't think of her name, the English actress, who was in that video where, at the premiere, where she was saying, women have always been vilified, and whether we're healers and all this type of crap, and you're just like, what? Another one of these people just going off on it. She's in one scene. And like, not like a couple of scenes and she's in it for about 3 minutes. One scene. She plays Cersei, the witch, which is also described as incredibly beautiful, and they make her not so. Trust me. She also has the horror scene that they describe, and it's like, it's not that much of a horror scene. It's just, this isn't a spoiler because everybody knows the Odyssey books, except Lupita Nyong'o. But her thing is she turns men into animals, and she turns them into the pigs, but we see her physically turning them into the pigs. And here's the issue, and this is an issue with every big event in the movie, like the Cyclops and all that type of stuff, which we'll get to. Everything gets resolved instantly. So she turns them into pigs. Yeah, they're pigs for about 2 minutes, and then that whole issue is resolved between her and Odysseus. It's like, well, you didn't even let that scene linger. You literally just went and resolved. And that's one of the issues. So the Cyclops is stupid. It really is. The way it's done and everything is stupid. So they get to the island, they follow a sheep, because he sees a sheep. He's gonna shoot the sheep for food, and Odysseus says, well, hang on, sheeps are always in flocks, let's follow it. And they end up in a cave, and when they're in the cave, in comes the herd of sheep, followed by the Cyclops, and the Cyclops closes the cave. So now they're trapped in the cave with the Cyclops. The Cyclops can still see, and yet this thing can't see, because it can't see them. Even though they're all standing around a giant campfire, it can't see them. Can't even see the sheep. It feels for the sheep and stuff like that. It's like, what is going on? Like, what? And their plan to get out is they have to wait for, now it's already killed a couple of people, it picks them up and eats them. And their idea to get out is to just, they'll have to wait till he lets the sheep out, and they keep getting caught, and then some of them get out and some of them have to wait, and then so on and so forth. And then their plan is to blind the Cyclops, which is already seemingly blind and retarded, which it then can speak. And this is the thing, for people who know the Odyssey, the Cyclops could speak, and it spoke with Odysseus, and there's meant to be that joke of it's called Nobody, and when Odysseus stabs it cries out for its brother and its father and stuff and says nobody's been blinded by nobody and all this type of stuff. And when they get out of the cave, Odysseus laughs back at him and says, I'm nobody, I'm Odysseus and stuff. They've completely changed that, so it cries out in foreignese. You don't know what it's actually saying. And when they leave, he just shoots it with an arrow and it chases them and stuff. And it's like, the whole Cyclops scene, the Cyclops looks terrible. The design on it's terrible. But the whole scene lasts like 3 minutes maybe. It's very quick. As is the giants. So when they get to the island with the giants, they arrive. They walk into a forest. They see a person. They call out to the person. The person turns around and the person is a child. But they're like the size of a person. The child screams and runs off, and all of a sudden the giants come waddling up, and I do mean waddling up, and just kick the shit out of them. They run back to the ships, get on the ships. The giants destroy two of the ships while Odysseus and his side sail away, and that was it. The whole scene with the giants is in the trailer. It's like, that was it. By the way, that armor right there, that's Ellen Page's armor. That's meant to be Sinon's armor. We shit you now. Now, why is the movie, by the way, R-rated? Is it violence? Is it sex and nudity and stuff like that? Well, there's no sex and there's no nudity in it whatsoever. The violence is very much PG-13 violence. Like, there's bits of blood here and there, especially when, like, the Cyclops bites one of the guys and you see a tiny bit of blood coming out, but there's not all that much blood, which is surprising for the amount of sword fights and stuff. There's not that much blood. It's the F-bombs. Yeah, that's right, there's F-bombs in this. I'm pretty sure there's 3. There's definitely 2, but I'm pretty sure there's 3. Now, this is also a problem with having to re-record this, is I can't remember exactly how the line went on the beach. But the first one drops. It's close enough at the start when we're seeing Odysseus and stuff getting their orders to leave the beach. And he's saying, like, we've been on the beach for 5 weeks. We're finally getting off it. And I'm pretty sure he drops an F-bomb in there where he's like, we've been on this effing beach for 5 weeks. We're finally leaving. And I'm pretty sure he's dropped an F-bomb there. But then later on, near the end of the movie, it's Robert Pattinson and the black guy who's always sitting beside him. No, it wasn't Tom Holland. It was a character, I won't spoil anything like that, who walks up and kind of questions them, and Patterson goes, F off. And the other guy immediately goes, did you not hear what he said? He said F off. And you're like, oh, okay. That's weird. Why are they dropping F-bombs and stuff like that? So that's why it's R-rated. It's not because of violence and stuff like that. There's at least 3 F-bombs in this thing. If you're, which you should be, against animal cruelty and stuff, you might want to be aware there's a fair bit of animal cruelty in this. So there's a puppy thrown off a cliff. There's a dog that gets beaten and kicked. There's sheep who get sacrificed and stuff. Now here's the thing. This dog. Now this dog is very important, but that's an animatronic. This is the dog that's meant to get beaten, but it's an animatronic, and it's a bad animatronic as well. You can completely tell that it's animatronic. So, okay, but that dog is important to the story. But when he was a pup, you see one of the pups in the litter, John, however you pronounce his second name, picks it up and goes, and off a cliff. At least as far as you're aware, he's off a cliff. Oh, by the way, this scene with the let's go, this isn't his army he's screaming at to. This is the army of the dead that are now chasing them. His men are already down there. So that's what this is. And that's the other thing as well, the dialogue. The dialogue is god-awful as well. So yeah, the whole my daddy and dad and all this crap. Which is weird, because he goes, what do you know about my dad? And then, like, Robert Pattinson, your daddy and stuff. But then he goes off to someone else. And he's like, my father will return and stuff and that. But then he goes back to saying daddy and dad and stuff. It's like, what? And the dialogue is all over the place. And so is the performances. As I was saying, but John Bernthal is like absolutely miscast in this. Beyond miscast. He is playing himself, basically. It's very off-putting. Tom Holland does a very unusual performance, and I don't know whether it was what he was told to do or whether he did it himself or something, because he's very much in command and in charge with certain elements. He knows what he wants, he knows how to try and get it. He takes charge in a lot of situations. But then he's very childish in other situations. So when he walks up to Robert Pattinson the first time, he gets put on his arse. He instantly turns into a child. And that happens a lot throughout it. When he's put in situations, he turns into a child. It was very unusual. As is the fact that all of the performances are delivered with American accents. So you have all of these guys, so many British actors, doing American accents, and they're all meant to be playing Greeks. By the way, this guy you can see just behind Matt Damon's shoulder there. I can't think of his I think it's something Patel or something. He's the guy who's going to be the new co-lead in the new X-Files reboot, remake thing. I saw somewhere saying he's Canadian Indian and whatnot. Either way, he's like of Indian descent or whatever. And he gets to deliver a line of dialogue that is hysterical. By the way, they said this thing's meant to have some fun in it and stuff. The only comedy in this movie is absolutely 100% unintentional comedy. Like Elliot Page trying to run. But he arrives on an island, runs up to a guy, takes off his helmet, and there's this brown Indian dude. And he goes, "Don't worry, we're Greeks." You're like, really? You sure about that? It's like, you're the most diverse Greeks I've ever seen. Like, there's a shit ton of brown ones and black ones, and there's even an Asian one. Yeah. Okay. It's weird. The sirens, I may as well say the sirens. The siren scene, which is a big part of the Odyssey, which was Odysseus telling his men, tie me to the mast of the ship, I want to hear the song, and no matter what I beg for and stuff, do not untie me. And of course the men have to put wax in their ears so they can't hear the song, to be lured to their death. The Asian dude takes it out willingly and whee, off he buggers. They do that. The whole scene with the siren is like fucking 40 seconds long. No exaggeration. You can barely see one of them. I only noticed one, and you can barely make them out. But they've changed. And because it goes so quickly, Odysseus gets tied to the mast, but he just screams in pain. And we don't see him begging the crew to untie him. He's literally just screaming in pain. And it's like, it's important that you had him begging them to untie him, because that is meant to be the whole idea, is that he's going to try and manipulate everybody to release, because that's the power of the song, and they've changed that and stuff. So overall, the performances for the most part, him, John Ligadoto or whatever his name is, he's actually not that bad in it. He's actually one of the more decent performances in it. When he's that age, they have a younger version of him, which is still him. That's me. But when he's that version, he's good. Robert Pattinson is probably the best one in the movie. He plays the asshole quite well and stuff like that. As I said, what's her name? Anne Hathaway is just way overperforming. Zendaya is non-existent in this. As is the guy who plays Agnanemon. I probably butchered how you actually pronounce that, but like they made a big deal over him. And he has one line of dialogue. I was actually thinking, like, does this dude actually speak? And it ends up being he does finally speak, and you never see his face without the helmet on, which, okay, I don't know why they chose to do that, but alright. But Zendaya, like, barely speaks in it, has the one facial expression. Why they picked her is beyond me. She's clearly in there because Tom Holland. So Charlize Theron, as I said, as Calypso is, again, a non-entity. And the movie is the biggest crime, isn't even the casting and stuff. It's a boring ass movie, and it's going to be very interesting to see if this thing can have legs, because I've watched it now and I can guarantee you I'll never watch it again. It's that boring. But if you've seen it, what do you guys think of it? And again, keep in mind there is animal cruelty if you haven't seen it and stuff like that, but it's not like you don't like see them physically cut the throats of the sheep or anything, but you know, just keep in mind. But overall, it's a boring movie. The casting choices like this are just parody at this stage. So again, if you've seen it, let me know. And with that, I shall catch you in the next one.